Welcome back. Joining us again today is Democratic pollster and managing director at Democracy Corps, Nancy Zdunkowicz, and Republican pollster and partner at Public Opinion Strategies, Jim Hobart. The 2020 White House budget released yesterday calls for increased spending on child care and proposes an initiative to address some of the shortages. That's according to NPR News. White House senior advisor and first daughter, Ivanka Trump, is looking to push the conversation about increasing the availability of affordability of child care. But she's not the only one. Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren also introduced a proposal to create a new federal child care system amid raising cost concerns. With that as a backdrop, our exclusive daily poll from Hill and Harris X asks how much the government should pay for child care. We find that a majority of Americans, that's 57%, think the costs of daycare are a responsibility that should be taken care of by the parent, not the government. 27% say the government should provide half-cost daycare for all parents, and 16% say the government should provide free daycare for all parents. Democrats are more likely to go for daycare for all, 23% of them. Just 18% of independents and 7% of Republicans also support the idea. Nancy, you poll a lot of Democrats about a lot of issues. Yes. Daycare for all has been a big topic, not just with Elizabeth Warren, but with Democrats all over the place. What are you getting about this?
I've been polling on this subject for years. And I want to encourage everybody to completely ignore the results of your poll. Because it vastly understates the support for a proposal to provide, to answer the problem, which is the lack of affordable and high quality childcare in this country.
Okay.
It also does not really reflect the way that any sort of policy would be structured. If you, for example,
so what's the question? What way would you ask the question?
So many different ways of thinking about how you want to do this. So if you wanted to say, I'm going to provide universal pre-K and perhaps expanded access to Head Start. I've asked it that way and found that 80% of voters said that they were very favorable to that policy, and almost as many said that they were generally favorable towards the idea of just
but that's
high
not exactly
quality, affordable childcare.
That's not exactly what Elizabeth Warren's proposing. I think universal daycare and pre-K, universal pre-K has been around for a long time.
No.
What she's proposing is, the issue has been around for a long time. What she's proposing is that there should be daycare and childcare for kids even before pre-K.
Yes.
Right. So how would you get to that question?
Well, so there's lots of different things. You could say that you were going to have it as a grant to the states. You could say that you were going to raise taxes on the rich in order to pay for this. You could say that we are going to help people afford the child care that they are already paying for by providing some sort of a tax credit. None of that is captured in the polling question that was asked.
So getting to the comparative way of how you do this, you think makes a fundamental difference in whether or not people actually support the policy. So how you pay for it matters when you ask people whether or not you support the policy.
Well, I just don't think the way that you actually ask the question in any way reflects the way that we help people afford things in this country. It's not a question of people should be on their own and shouldn't have any help from the government, or people should have it for free. I mean, how is the government paying for it? Where does the money come from? Nothing's free.
All right. So what do you think about this? You've been looking at this also from the conservative perspective. How does this free daycare
I think
government handout big government socialist program that Nancy thinks that we set up? How does I'm teasing you. I'm giving you a hard time.
There's all sorts of different ways that you could do this. You could kick it to the states, and they could, maybe different states have different models that are, better for. The point was that this question was not.
I think there is an incredible amount of support for increased funding for early childhood education. We see that in polls over and over and over again. And I think that in a lot of ways, daycare is just that. It's early childhood education. I think terming it as daycare may be rubbing people a little bit the wrong way in the polling question. So I think if you're saying...
So if that's the case, why is the first daughter, Ivanka Trump, actually pushing for expanded daycare. Now, theirs isn't government-funded daycare, but it's expanded and affordable daycare. It tells me there's something that the White House knows about this question also that's important, that they're trying to get on the right side of it.
Yeah, no, I think that Ivanka Trump has also been very out front. She's worked with Senator Rubio on longer paid family leave, too. I think that she has certainly taken this as an issue. And politically, it's smart. Look, she's a mom, so she can speak to it from that perspective. And it's something that does cut across partisan lines. That, yeah, Republicans are supportive of it, but independents, the voters who are likely to decide the election, they're supportive of it as well.
These are some of the most popular policies: paid family leave, equal pay, expanded access to early childhood education, universal pre-K, expanded Head Start. All of this polls extremely well, and it's because right now the government does not really reflect the changing nature of the way that families are structured and that they work, and the changing nature of work in the 21st century. And that is particularly difficult for single parents.
Now, listen, and I'm a new parent. I get the cost of daycare and childcare.
It is more than the
This
cost
is a national
of
emergency in my
college
mind.
it's more than
Right.
the cost of college in most states.
Yeah, and very often it's more than the cost of rental and housing agreements for people. People are spending more money taking care of their kids, daycare for their kids, than they are on their rent.
And they
or their
have no
mortgage
choice.
payment.
They have no choice. I remember going to a focus group once, and one woman was saying, I have no, I have to go and work because I'm sure I could do a better job of taking care of my child. My husband makes more than me, so I would be the one who would stay home. But it's that extra $50 that I get out of going to work. I mean, the rest of it gets eaten up by childcare, but I need just that extra $50 because that pays for our gas bill. I mean, it's just like a terrible decision for all these parents, and they don't feel like, working for two-parent homes, they don't feel like it's even worth it.
So I'm going to go to an adjacent issue. So David Leonhardt in the New York Times today had a pretty good piece where he talked about what's wrong with the economy and why is it that we haven't been able to crack 3% growth. And he quotes Larry Summers and some other people, but there's a real question about where the benefits of the economy are accruing. So as the benefits go more to people who make more money, they end up saving more money instead of spending it. And so we're having a problem getting the economy jump-started because rich people aren't spending enough money. So maybe one of the questions is, how do we get more assets and income into the hands of people who are the lower rungs of the economic ladder, because they'll spend more money taking care of their kids and their families and buying food and all those things. What is the Republican response to this? We've been trying this trickle-down question of getting more money into the hands of cutting taxes for wealthy people, and it doesn't seem to be working.
Well, I think, look, we're at a period where unemployment is 3.8%. The numbers on how people feel they are doing economically are the best they have been in years. We are in, from a polling standpoint,
but wages aren't
people are
growing.
more satisfied with the economy than they have been since the recession. And this is reflected in national polling and in state polling as well. So I think that, are there some frustrations with wage growth? Sure. But from a macro perspective, a vast majority of Americans are as satisfied with the economy as they have been in a number of years.
I want to stay here for a second because we did spend a lot of money last year on the Trump tax cut with the promise that we were going to bust out the caps on growth. Now we're not seeing that. We're not seeing that sustain. So I guess the question is: are programs like more daycare, family leave, are these questions that put more money in the hands of working people? Is that a better economic strategy? I know we're not economists here, but is that more popular, even, let's say, with people as a way maybe to get the economy moving faster?
People are very supportive of all of these policies, and people do not support lower taxes on the rich. People are very supportive of higher taxes on the rich. In fact, a wealth tax is also polling quite well. People who are accumulating capital and not like middle-class families taking whatever they can get and putting it back into the economy and growing it, that is a huge problem.
Yeah. All right, well.
And when you talk about the economy, I mean, let's just be clear, people do not feel very comfortable in their personal financial situations. They might look at the jobs numbers and they can say, okay, well, that is a solid statistic that I can point to, okay, or look at the stock market and say, okay, that looks to be a strong stock market, but most people do not own stocks. Most people, have not had higher wages. They don't feel like they can go and get a better paying job in their community, and they feel the cost of expenses is rising much faster than their own wages are. It is hard out there for working people.
All right, well, we're going to have more to talk about, I think, for the rest of the year on that question. Still ahead today, do voters want a fighter or do they want a healer as their next president? That's next on What America's Thinking.